Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar this evening with Rail Journeys with AAA and Railbookers. My name's Brian Murray. I'm the Director of Travel here at AAA, and we're delighted that you're decided to spend some time with us this evening. Now, while we all can't travel right now to many places, what we want to do is help you think about the opportunities out there and dream about the possibilities, because when we can travel in the future, boy, is it going to be busy for all the folks that wanted to travel this past summer and fall. There's going to be a lot of opportunity, and we want to help you think about those possibilities. So we're excited about the program this evening. I want to let everyone know that you're in listen-only mode. If you do have any questions, though, feel free to type them in the question panel on your screen. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jarret Kettinger, who is the Business Development Executive with Yankee Leisure Group, and he's going to talk about bucket list rail journeys with Railbookers. Jarret, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you, Brian, and thank you to all of the AAA members taking time to sign on today. There I am, a photo of me, the guest speaker of the evening. As Brian did say, of course, we will be answering any and all questions. Feel free to type them in, as Brian said, into the panel on the side of the GoToWebinar outlet, and we will answer those at the end of the presentation. Now, I recognize by my photo, I look like I'm still in high school, but believe it or not, I've been affiliated with Railbookers and the larger corporation here for almost a decade now. And so any and all questions, feel free to type them on in. Now, what will we cover on this evening's presentation? Number one, we're going to be covering, as the title would suggest, some bucket list rail journeys for you to start dreaming about and thinking about potentially for travel next year or the year after. We're going to talk about some benefits of booking on a Railbookers trip through your local AAA travel advisors, and a little bit about how we kind of stand out, how we do things a little bit differently here with Railbookers, and how you can personalize your own journeys. Now, why travelers love Railbookers? Well, number one, you are able to book through AAA on a Railbookers journey up to 2 years out, up to 24 months in advance. And so, of course, we all know we're not jumping to travel right now, just as Brian said a moment ago, but of course we can start dreaming, start thinking, start planning our next journeys when travel comes back. And so you can actually talk with your local AAA advisor now on one of our journeys for up to 2 years out. We have bucket list rail experiences, and definitely you're going to be seeing some great ones on the presentation momentarily. We also have trips for special occasions, whether it's a honeymoon, an anniversary trip, a post-graduation trip, a family trip. We cover all sorts of great special occasions. We have freedom and flexibility here. We can actually personalize trips to fit your specific travel requests. It's a scenic way to travel. Folks, I don't think I'm shocking anybody when I say clouds look pretty much the same from the window of the plane, whether you're traveling over the United States, whether you're traveling over a body of water, or either traveling over another country. Clouds look the same pretty much everywhere. You can see scenery right from the window of the train. Deposit now, pay later. We do not require a huge, ginormous payment all up front. You can put a deposit down and pay in bits and spurts right up until close to travel. You can choose your own accommodations. There's too many other vendors that will pre-book at a certain lodge or certain hotel property, and you are forced to go into that property. With us, you actually have a choice of a menu of hotel options at 3, 4, and 5 diamond levels at each of the destinations. And I can't harp on this enough. All of our itineraries are customizable and personalizable. And again, it's important to note that you can book 2 days out, last minute out, when booking through your local AAA advisor for a Railbookers trip. though we know that's really not conceptualized right now, but in other times, more normal times, that is the case. And again, we have an up to 2-year booking window as well. And we have a maximum flexibility offer because we know things aren't exactly so certain right now, but we want to make sure you folks, when you do decide to book, you feel comfortable when booking. And so when booking through your local AAA travel advisor on a Railbookers journey, any new reservations can change the travel dates or cancel, as long as you inform your AAA advisor, and by extension, they inform us 5 days or more prior to the design departure. Any current existing reservations you may have made on a Railbookers trip through AAA can reschedule. Again, as long as everyone is informed 5 days or more prior to departure. And good news here, that is without incurring any change or cancellation fee. And this is going right through December 31. So this isn't ending at the end of the week or next week. That is going right through the end of the year. And we take the mystery out of rail travel. I know for some, you might look at a map like this and see the colorful solid lines going all throughout Europe and saying, oh my Lord, I have to figure out where I'm going. I have to figure out how I'm going there. I got to figure out how the tickets work. Nope. Number one, you have all of the ease of booking through your local AAA travel advisor. And we here at Railbookers, for everyone, figure it all out for you, for them, and take the mystery away, making it so simple for all involved. Now, how are European rail operators maintaining a safe environment? Well, there's a several-step solution to that. And I'm going to jump to the second bullet first, because it says stopping the sale of food and drink on board the train. Why I'm starting there first is because momentarily, you're going to be hearing about some of the wonders and enjoyments of traveling on board the train, including the wonderful meals. And you may say, well, that's a little contradictory. The meal services, such as the meal carts, are currently not operating. On a lot of the trains, they're the little push carts, that very similar to what a stewardess might push on an airline. So that happens often on the European lines. Well, they have currently stopped those push carts and those selling of food and drink. However, again, we are talking about in the future, when things open back up, when things have gone back to a little bit more sense of normalcy. So if you're seeing the meal services talked about momentarily, that is what I'm referring to. Now, for everyone, passengers and staff, everyone is required to wear a mask, wear a facial covering when traveling throughout the stations, and especially when traveling on board the trains. They have changed the seat allocation and configuration to allow for more physical and social distancing. Increased cleaning and sanitation has been put into place so that the stations and the trains inside and out are cleaned daily, multiple times daily. And because we can do the e-versions of tickets or electronic versions of tickets on phones, that is allowing for contactless ticket control. Real simple, real easy, and real smart. Now, what does Railbookers offer? You've heard a little bit about us, but let's get to the nuts and bolts of what exactly we do here. Number one, we book confirmed seat reservations on board the trains. We don't book the generic passes to travel willy-nilly. No, we book confirmed seat reservations so that you know when you're traveling on board one of the trains booked through Railbookers, you have a seat, you have a designated spot on the train. We book sightseeing activities. You can see in the middle picture on the upper level of the slide here, the gentleman traveling throughout the Vatican. So we include sightseeing activities at the various destinations. As mentioned before, we book the hotels for you to stay at as a part of the larger package. And again, you have options at 3, 4, and 5 diamond levels. We book ferries because a lot of this travel is European travel, or sometimes it might even be travel in the Pacific Northwest of the United States and British Columbia in Canada, where ferries are necessary occasionally. We book short excursions, and where applicable, we also can book overnight rail journeys. All of the above. It's all packaged together. It's all bookable through AAA, and that is what we do. And again, just a quick reminder, you get to choose your hotels for your particular travel needs and at your particular level of what you're used to travel. And what does it mean to personalize or customize a trip? Well, we can take a already existing itinerary and add on a destination if it doesn't already include it. We can book the different levels of class on board the train, such as first class. We can do round trip journeys. So if you need or want to go back to the original point of departure, we can make it easy for you. Now, as I mentioned, we already include some sightseeing when you go on these trips, but should you want to add additional sightseeing, we do that as well. We can book a trip in reverse. So if you see an itinerary you like or you think you might enjoy, but want to do it backwards, well, we can just flip it on its head. Real simple, real easy. And this is becoming more and more popular, and we are increasing the availability for it where applicable, upgrading to private tours. And this is an example of what things would look like in other years, being stuck in a long line at a particular international attraction that everybody wants to see. Think of the Eiffel Tower, think of the Louvre, think of Vatican City, think of the Colosseum. Well, with Railbookers, on a lot of our attraction admissions, we include what's known as quote unquote skip the line, which means that you can just zoom right past those long lines or potential long lines and go right into the attractions. And we're going to start, and it's going to sound a little weird, but we're going to be starting not in Europe, but rather we're going to start in Alaska. That's the first destination and first itinerary I'm going to talk about today. Now, reading our maps, wherever you see a little bubble with a number in it, that's the amount of overnights in total at a destination. And so you can see 4 nights in total in Seward, in Anchorage rather, then connecting down to Seward, up to Talkeetna, and then into Denali and back. So you can see it starts with 2 nights in Anchorage, which is the cultural and major hub of Alaska. And during the stay in Anchorage, we familiarize yourself with the city real simple by way of the Anchorage Trolley Tour. So it's an included attraction tour that travels all throughout Anchorage, stopping for you to get on and off at your leisure at such areas as the mysterious Earthquake Park, Westchester Lagoon. If you've ever seen Alaska or an Alaska journey on, say, the History Channel or the Discovery Channel or National Geographic, you might have seen folks traveling in float planes. Well, this trolley tour will stop off at Lake Hood, where you yourself can purchase into a float plane ride. It'll also stop at some of the more historic neighborhood areas and areas that are key points for wildlife sightseeing. From there, we send you down to Seward, where you will actually get a journey out into the 5 untouched islands of Seward with a Resurrection Bay tour. It's a boat cruise that travels through the KENAI Fjords National Park. It's a 5-hour tour connecting you to these untouched islands that such as Fox Island, a visit out to Holgate Glacier, heading out to for island cruising. And again, you wouldn't actually be able to access this unless you were on these tours. They are untouched islands. It is a 5-hour tour. It includes a free afternoon to explore amongst the islands and the fjords, and it will pick you up from your local Seward hotel that is booked along with everything else. And you're connecting from Anchorage to Seward, back to Anchorage, to Talkeetna, and eventually on to Denali by way of the Alaskan Railroad. And all of the packages already come built in to the adventure class on the Alaskan Railroad, which comes with a confirmed seating, of course, with a large picture window right to your right or your left, depending on where you are. You can see that in the lower right-hand corner. Onboard dining and bar service is available for purchase in what's known as the Wilderness Cafe. Freedom to explore where available into the other adventure cars or into the Vista Dome car, as you can see in the lower left-hand photo. So adventure class is already factored in. However, if I was to suggest anything, I would definitely suggest chatting with your local AAA representative or travel advisor about upgrading potentially to Gold Star service on board the Alaskan Railroad system. Comes with a couple of benefits. The upgrade comes with automatic glass dome ceiling sitting, upper level viewing platforms. In the upper level photo, you can see where the two train cars connect. Above it, there is the fenced in upper level viewing platform. Also, meals are included automatically, full service dining, a private bar car with 2 complimentary adult beverages are included, and there is an Alaskan tour guide taking the ride with you. And we will send you up to stay for 2 nights at 4 Diamond Wilderness Lodging up in Denali National Park, with the highest point altitude in North America, formerly known as Mount McKinley. And we will actually have you traveling 95 miles into the Alaskan wilderness. So you will get to be out there and be out amongst nature in Alaska, the final frontier. And we do that by way of the Alaskan Backcountry Adventure Tour, which does pick up from your lodging up in Denali. It is a full day tour. When I say full day, you're getting out into the wilderness, departing at 6 a.m. from your hotel and arriving back at 7:30 p.m. You will have a lunch included at Miners Day Lodge, free time in Kantishna, where you get one of 3 inclusions that you can pick from, which are the options are either a history tour of the area, a nature hike, or you could actually try your hand at panning for gold. That is an option as well. And your full day guided tour includes some highlights such as the polychrome overlook, which has a big kaleidoscope of colors formed by volcanic rock. And you will be roughly at one point at the visitor center, 33 miles from the summit of Denali, with some of the best wildlife viewing throughout your journey. So that is our first itinerary, a great jaunt right into nature, right into Alaska, traveling all throughout the state. Next up, we have our Complete Scotland by Rail. There's a reason we call it the Complete Scotland by Rail, because it's everything that one wants to and or should do on a trip through Scotland. Now, this itinerary, its first 2 nights include a stay in Edinburgh, the historic capital of Scotland, with its classic charm, winding cobblestone streets, great shopping and dining. During the 2-night stay in Edinburgh, you will have a skip the line admission to the famous Edinburgh Castle, which, as you can see there by the photo, sits perched atop a giant rock outcrop overlooking the city. And as it says there, you skip the line. You are not standing in line for hours at a time. You are getting zoom right to the front of the line. And all those other folks, they can just watch you walk right on past. Now, we normally advise doing the tour of Edinburgh Castle maybe after lunchtime. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, in this time of physical and social distancing, there will be less people. So not only are you skipping the line, but you're also going to be there as more people have been filtered out. You will get better to get closer for better views of what is known as the honors of Scotland, aka the crown jewels of Scotland. And the other reason we say to go in the after lunch or in the early afternoon is that as you get later on in the afternoon, you will see the historic and ceremonial, what is known as the firing of the guns. So the military members stepping out of the castle, resplendent in their full regalia, firing off the pistols to honor the Scotsmen and Scotswomen lost at sea who will not be returning. It's very solemn, it's very honorific, and definitely worth experiencing. Now, you will also, in the young child's geek in me, is proud to tell you, you will eventually head up through the Highlands and stay in Inverness, where you will have a cruise out onto Loch Ness itself. So if you have your eyes peeled, you might be able to catch views or keep your phone's photography primed to get a shot of famous Nessie. Now, to travel through the Highlands, we include a ride on the magical Jacobite train. And this is more of a rhetorical question, but I'm guessing some of you may have seen a photo or a video of this train somewhere in the near past. And so if any of you are looking at the photo to the right and saying, I've seen that before, I don't know where, maybe some of you do know where, and if so, I welcome you to type where you think you might have seen it, maybe in a famous movie series in the past 20 years. Feel free to type that in. And this is an amazing ride up through the Scottish Highlands. It's a classic steam engine ride going up through the numerous mountains, including past the famous Ben Nevis, traveling right from Fort William, where this train makes its departure. Ben Nevis is the highest mountain in the British Isles. You'll continue up through the Highlands, going past the tiny Highland villages. Right off the coast, you are going to be traveling past some of the smaller islands, such as Isle Egg off the west coast of Scotland, traveling past gurgling rivers, numerous mountains and vales. It's really a beautiful journey, and eventually ending up in the tiny fishing village of Mallock up on the western tip of Scotland. And Karen on the presentation got it right. And Joyce as well. Yes, folks, that is the Hogwarts Express. The filmmakers of the Harry Potter movies utilized the Jacobite as the famous magical Hogwarts Express. Now, I can't promise that this will travel and bring you right to Hogwarts, where you can now learn your witch in wizardry, but you will have a magical journey nonetheless up through the Highlands. And you will get a stay in Inverness, as I mentioned before, with a ride out onto Loch Ness. You will also get to visit the famous Urquhart Castle, which was featured in the photo previously of Loch Ness. Urquhart Castle being the most photographed location in all of Scotland. So you can see if you yourself will turn that into or continue the tradition, and you will have plenty of time to relax in a local Scottish pub, enjoy the local fare, enjoy the culture, and breathe in that crisp, clean Highlands air that makes Scotland so special. Next up, we have the Grand Cinque Terre in Rome. So I like to kind of refer to this as the best compact first-time traveler's journey to Italy. This includes 3 nights stay in Rome, 2 nights at the beginning, and 1 night at the end. While staying in Rome, we include admission to the Vatican museums in Vatican City. We include a hop-on, hop-off tour. Again, that'll get you on and off at the major attractions all around Rome, the Colosseum, the Trevi Fountain, the Spanish Steps, so you can get on and on at your leisure. And we include a local food tour, a secret food tour. From there, you'll take the train, Trenitalia, up through the fields of Italy and up into La Spezia and Sestri Levante, which you will use as a jumping off point to visit the 5 towns, or what's known in Italian as Cinque Terre. It's a very easy, convenient connecting point, Trenitalia, right from the city center of Rome, right to some of the major train stations up in the northern part of Italy. Now, there's a couple of things I want to highlight on the slide. First off, you'll see in the lower right-hand corner of the slide, the setup for a wine and cheese reception. I mentioned before, and you saw on one slide a few slides back, a local food tour. That's actually a secret food tour. Why is it a secret food tour, you may ask? Well, as opposed to sending you to the more touristy grouping, kind of tacky areas of Rome, we send you on the secret food tour, which is basically a Romans afternoon or Romans evening, where some of the best restaurants, or most iconic spots all around Rome are. So you are getting the best of the best with much less people crowding around you. I did the secret food tour myself when I went to Rome last year. Our tour guide was phenomenal. She spoke fluent English. She spoke fluent Italian, made everything so much easier for us. The first stop along the way was at a local cafe where we all had an Aperol Spritz. She went over the famous history of the famous Italian drink and Aperol Spritz, as well as some of the history of the city. From there, we ventured into a local pizza parlor where a little old Italian man was really just pulling 2 pies right out of the oven. He'd been doing it for 60 some odd years. There were 2 completely different types of pizza. He served them, the 2 slices, to us with a local Italian craft beer. From there, we went on to what you're seeing in the photo in the lower right-hand corner with a wine and cheese reception and tasting, one of 2 along the way. After that wine and cheese tasting, we went to a local pub or Italian pub where they served a supplì or an arancini rice ball. The reason it's called a supplì is that translated to English, it would be surprised. And the local laborers coming off their jobs will go to these little bars and little pubs in Italy and order the supplì, which is the cooks or the bakers surprise to them, whatever is included. One of the supplì we had was filled with cheese and meat. One was cheese and mushroom. Both of them served with pomodoro sauce. Both of them served with a heavy-handed pour of red wine. From there, we went on to one more cheese and wine tasting, a formal sit-down pasta dinner, and then the best voted gelato shop in all of Italy. Or all of Rome, I should say. Maybe not Italy, but all of Rome, according to our tour guide. Now, does that sound like something you might be interested in, especially as we head into the dinner hour here? So this is some of the special opportunities you get when booking through AAA on a Railbookers journey. Not to mention the fact that we send you up to Cinque Terre, the 5 towns, Monterosso, Vernazza, Corniglia, Rio Maggiore, and last but certainly not least, Manarola, which you can see in the top left-hand photo. These incredible, colorful, vibrant villages right out on the waterfront. We give you plenty of time to explore all 5. Now, if you are a hiker, you can hike between these villages. I will tell you, it is quite the exercise. I did one hike between one village to another, and then for the rest of the time, I took the train. Now, mind you, when you book through AAA on a Railbookers trip, you do not have to do that hike should you not want to, because the trains to each of the 5 towns are already booked together. Also, we include the Cinque Terre Pass, which is very useful because when you take the trains from town to town, the pass will give you admission to the local buses, local motor coaches that'll bring you right into the town squares. It'll include, the pass includes admission to some of the major historical churches, locations, attractions, museums, and because you are going to want to be making your friends and family jealous as you travel on your trip, the pass also includes admission for the local internet hotspots, so you can upload your pictures to Facebook and social media in real time and make people text you angrily saying they wish they were in Italy. That's the convenience that we provide to you here at Railbookers and, of course, through AAA. This itinerary, the classic Glacier and Bernina Express, is one of our premier itineraries all through Switzerland, starting in Zurich, traveling down to Interlaken for a 2-night stay in Interlaken, where you will travel on the famous Jungfraujoch, going up to one of the highest alpine altitude spots in Europe itself. It is the highest altitude train station, which is kind of impressive of itself, but what's more important, it's a stone's throw from the highest altitude alpine chocolatier shop, a little bit more appropriate than the train station. From there, you'll go down to Brig, where you will board the famous Glacier Express to ride through the UNESCO World Heritage Swiss Alps and on to Core, where you'll board the Bernina Express, still traveling through the Alpine Swiss mountains and traveling along the southern area of Switzerland, the northern area of Italy, to go through St. Moritz and Tirano, and then doubling back from Core to Zurich to end the trip. And here you can see the top left is the town of Interlaken. You can see the Zurich Bahnhof station next to it. Bottom left is the quaint town of Bern, and bottom right is Core. So you'll be traveling through each of these picturesque storybook little towns. And you'll be heading out onto the Glacier Express, which travels itself through the Swiss Alps over 291 bridges, through 91 tunnels, climbing to nearly 7,000 feet above sea level at what's known as the Oberall Pass, with sweeping views of the mountains, valleys, the Rhine gorges, which are also known as the Grand Canyons of Switzerland. So they're trying to copy us with our majestic Grand Canyon with their own majestic Grand Canyons of the Rhine gorges, through valleys and past the famous Matterhorn. It's a big panoramic journey. And folks, I will say this, we have this starting from accommodations on board the train. However, I would beseech you to check with your local AAA travel advisor about upgrading to excellence class on board the train. And there's a good couple of reasons for booking into excellence class. Number one, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner, it guarantees you a window seat, which you're absolutely going to want to have as you're traveling. It gives you access to the Glacier Bar. On the top left-hand corner, you're seeing the illuminated compass that is directly above the Glacier Bar. And get this, folks, they've gotten things so down to a T that the bases of the tumblers or wine glasses are actually made tilted so that there is not a drop on you, on the bartender, on whomever, as the train turns and goes through these mountainscapes. We also include in excellence class automatic, a 5-course, 5-diamond fine dining experience. And what's a fine dining experience without wine being included, which of course is covered within the cost as well. And then traveling continued on the Bernina Express, which is also known for its wide-ranging panoramic views of the Swiss Alps, and traveling past and amongst the crystalline, pristine green lakes that inhabit the region. It goes right along the border, a lower border of Switzerland, northern border of Italy. And folks, you should definitely ask and notate this, but of course we'll tell AAA as well to advise you to ask the conductors for these access points as they announce you're traveling through the Bruzio Spiral Viaduct, which once you get access to those access points by those conductors, you will actually get to see the front and the caboose of the train as it's spiraling along the viaduct itself. Very interesting. And then last, but absolutely certainly not least, is travel on the famed Orient Express. Now, this itinerary is the Venice Orient Express to Venice, starting in London for one night stay there, before traveling overnight through the Swiss Alps, eventually ending for 3 nights in Venice. If you did want to extend the stay in London, of course, it's a beautiful, deeply cultural, historical, important city. Of course, we can always add on extra nights in London at the beginning of the trip. And as you can inquire with your local AAA travel advisor. Now, this is quite the journey. It starts in London's famed Victoria Station, and you will travel on the olden style, though doesn't look it, they're all well kept and brand new looking, British Pullman cars, traveling from London down through the tunnel, the underground tunnel that connects to Paris. Along the way, you will be served a delicious brunch with a Bellini along the way, eventually ending at a station in Paris where a deluxe luxury motor coach. And when people say motor coach, you usually start thinking of like a regular bus. What bus provides top shelf champagne for your short ride outside of Paris to the station of the Orient Express? Again, the Orient Express made famous by many movies, many classic novels. Upon arriving, if you hadn't already observed the pure elegance of the experience, you will automatically be regaled by it when you see the young conductors coming out to you with their white gloves and their pressed blue suits, very classic looking. You will board the train. They will lead you down the aisles right to your cabins. And here you can see what the cabin accommodations look like with their deep, rich colored wooden shelves and walls and ceilings. You can see the gentlemen coming around, folding things down in the evening time for rest. And along the way, you will have all of the wonderful experiences of a classic 5-diamond experience. You can see the two of the 4 different dining cars in the photography right here, one to the right and one on the lower left. You can see the baby grand piano as it's played during the day as the train itself is churning through the Swiss Alps. The food on board, which you will have 4 meals, a lunch after boarding the train and its departure, a dinner that evening, a breakfast the following morning delivered right to your cabin, so you will enjoy it right within the luxury of your cabin, delivered by the conductors, and then an afternoon high tea before arriving in Venice. The meals themselves are quite decadent, so as you're traveling through the mountains, including, and very important to note, the Simplon Pass, which is where the train gets its name, you'll be enjoying such fine dining experience as foie gras, caviar, lobster. And during the day, it is a dressy, casual attire with dressy in all capitals. And in the evening time, it would be more common than uncommon to see gentlemen in a tuxedo, black tie, women in an evening gown. And after dinner, an amazing several course meal, you'll return to find your cabins folded down for you by the conductors in the evening. And like I mentioned, along the way, we do stays in London and Venice. So again, if you'd like to spend extra time in London, maybe enjoy a visit to the British Museum, maybe take a ride on the London Eye, or just get one of the amazing experiences of London. I always say there's so many different London visits. There's the snapshot version of London, getting pictures of Big Ben, getting pictures of the of the castles and the fountains and the London Bridge and the Tower of London. Then there's a foodie experience because there's so many cultures of London. You can get the classic British pub food, the Indian food, high, five diamond, high class dining. There's the foodie experience. There is the historical museum experiences such as the British Museum and some of the other amazing aspects. So definitely worth spending some time in London. And then after having an incredible 5-diamond journey through the Swiss Alps on the Orient Express, we include a guided tour of Venice and a few nights to explore the city, find a little square, whether it's hanging out at a cafe or a local wine shop, sipping your coffee, sipping your wine, and just reminiscing on your incredible once-in-a-lifetime journey. And so, having gone over all that for you folks, which destinations are you currently interested in? Feel free to type them or your questions into the questions box on the side of the GoToWebinar platform. And it is definitely worth mentioning, since you folks are AAA members, there are AAA member benefits as always. $50 off automatically on any package that is 5 days or more in length. So just by booking through AAA on a Railbookers trip, if the package is 5 days or more in length, boom, we automatically knock $50 off whatever the total price is. And then just add another 50 that we knock off if it's 7 days or more in length. And I should note that on occasion, and quite often, not just on occasion, Railbookers will occasionally run some specials, other extra discounts, which are, of course, combinable with the AAA member benefit. And your local AAA travel advisor will be happy, I'm sure, to advise through Railbookers on what specials are running and when. Just as a friendly reminder, our maximum flexibility offer is running right up until the end of the year, so I'm not putting any pressure on anyone to book. But if you did like this presentation, you did start thinking about where you might want to go, just know any new reservations can change the travel dates or cancel up to 5 days prior to departure, and any existing reservations can reschedule up to 5 days prior to departure, and that is, again, bookable through the end of the year. Just a friendly reminder, you are free to type in any and all questions into the questions box at this time. And I did want to say a big thank you for joining us. It's great to have all of you folks here on the presentation this evening. I know what it's like to take a time out of your busy lives, your busy day. It was an honor to have you on to talk about the destinations and train travel this evening. By the way, we did have a couple of people get the correct answer for the Jacobite that was, like I said, in the Harry Potter movies. And I'm not sure that it was in a James Bond movie. It could be, though I will say to Ginger, who did suggest potentially it was in a Bond movie, maybe it was. I haven't seen all of them. We did feature Venice, and it's worth noting that should you book through AAA on a package that includes Venice, we can actually include a transfer from the train stations in Venice to the hotel. And as we know, Venice is a city right on the water, and actually those transfers are done in the colorful wooden open top style boats that have definitely been made famous, particularly in Venice, by the James Bond movies. So I did want to let you know that, Ginger, as you put in James Bond. And again, I don't see any questions right now. I see some people saying thank you, no thank you. And Brian, anything you would like to say?
Well, I appreciate it, Jarret. You know what? A great program you had. I'm ready to go. All of them are my favorite. I had some trips. I was in Alaska last year, and it was absolutely fabulous. I would probably one of the best vacations I've ever had. Had trips to Europe, postponed this year, but you painted a great picture. There's great opportunity. And again, we're just really helping our members and listeners to really think about the possibilities when we can all move about this beautiful nation of ours in the world. There's so much to learn and educate through different cultures. So Jarret, again, thank you. Feel free, if anyone does come up with questions, to give us a call, 888-320-4863. Any one of our travel consultants can answer those questions for you, but we wish everybody a great evening and happy Thanksgiving next week. And again, Jarret, thank you. And thanks to our members for being here tonight. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, everybody. Have a great evening and happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there.